got really emotional. Do you remember that?
About what? I said, unfortunately, my business partners don't believe in collaboration. He said, well, you got the wrong business partners then, haven't you? And you know when someone says something, it just like stops you fucking dead in your track. And I was like, oh, fuck. Look, in my experience, for every day that you don't make a decision that you ultimately deep down you need to make, you put yourself a month behind in your own life.
Didn't you actually initially say Clubhouse ain't going to work? And you actually did some posts saying...
I did a podcast.
Oh, you did an episode?
I did a podcast saying why Clubhouse is the biggest waste of time in 2021.
And that was the title?
Maybe. So I give myself a bit of wiggle room just to be wrong.
Just a bit.
And I was. Whether you think you can or you can't, just fucking have a go. And give it everything that you've got. And the second that you don't have belief in yourself, then you're fucked. Whether you want to hear this or not, and however this lands for you will tell you exactly what you need to know potentially. Where you are right now is exactly where you are supposed to be.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Rich in Success podcast, the show that brings you motivation, education, inspiration on how you can live a happier, healthier, more successful, and a more fulfilling life. Thank you for being here as always. We're here at episode 160, and this week I sat down with my good friend, brand strategist, and podcast expert, Mr. James Burtt. Now, James and I have been good friends for about 3 years, maybe nearly 4 now, and we first met through somebody that we knew in common. Now, that somebody was one of my ex-mentors, and it was one of James's ex-business partners. Now, through this mutual acquaintance, we both had a truly life-changing experiences. But as you'll learn in this episode, there was also a dark side, and one that was truly difficult for both of us, but we had to have the courage to step away. Now, one of the things that I came to notice over the last few years getting closer to James is recognizing that James really has this kind of almost superpower ability to always quit when something isn't truly aligned and isn't truly serving him, his values, his mission, and his vision. And when I asked James about this, he said he doesn't class it as quitting, and he gave some really crucial advice. Now, for me, I think the reason I call this a superpower is for so many of us, we hold on to relationships, jobs, businesses, circumstances, and situations that we know deep down do not truly serve us. They're not truly aligned, but through fear of change and through the fear of letting people down, many of us stay in that position forever and live with the regret. That is one thing that James does not do. And in today's episode, James shares very openly and honestly his personal insight. Over the last year, he's managed to build an incredibly successful podcast agency. James was actually the person responsible for giving me all the knowledge and for mentoring me when I first started the Rich in Success podcast. He is the person that helped us launch this show by going into the charts at position number 21 in the overall podcast charts. I owe him an awful lot. But as he's developed, as he's evolved, he's not only an expert in the field of podcasting, he now is a brand specialist that draws upon years' experience in building various brands. And he's also managed to build, alongside his co-founders, an incredible community over on Clubhouse. Every single morning, they host a breakfast show called Breakfast for Winners, where they do a radio-style show that's there to inspire, to uplift, and to help people to truly achieve what they want to achieve. It's an honor to have James back on the show today. Without further ado, please enjoy today's episode 160, Knowing When to Walk Away with brand specialist James Burtt. And just before we dive straight into today's Rich in Success podcast episode, I wanted to share with you what becoming a Rich in Success member could actually do for your life. Now, if you're somebody that is at a point where you're serious about positive change, whether that be in your health, your well-being, your mindset, your business, your career, your finances, or your relationships, the Rich in Success membership is perfect for you. For just £39 a month, you get access to over 40 training videos where I'll be taking you through everything from goal setting. We'll be looking at high performance habits. We'll be looking at different changes you can make to your mindset and your attitude that are going to be able to propel you to have more success in every single area of your life. And in addition to these training videos, every month, you will get a live group coaching call with me where you can ask me any questions about the content or about things that you're going through in your life so that I can help you personally as your coach. And as well as that, there will be exclusive bonus interviews with experts in a variety of fields. I'm bringing together the best minds, the best experts from all around the world to give you access to the very best content to help you move forward in your life. All this for just £39 a month, reoccurring subscription that you can cancel at any time. To become a Rich in Success member today, please click the link below or head on over to richinsuccess.com where you can sign up there. And I will look forward to seeing you in the exclusive members area very soon.
It's all surreal. I'm with the podcast guru, the king. Thank you for inviting us here.
Was that the start?
You're
so relaxed into it these days. Jesus, before you'd have bowled in like,
listen,
here we go.
If I carried on like that, I wouldn't still be doing a podcast. I'd be having a mental breakdown, exhausted somewhere.
Okay.
So we've got to bring it down. We've got to bring it down.
I'm gonna get on your energy level.
We're going down. We're going down. So thank you. We've
You're
got
welcome.
my
Thank
diva, Jimmy, my videographer.
He's a right
Two
diva
sugars.
now, isn't he? Two sugars can provide it. Can we have some more lights? Yeah, of course, Jimmy. No
You've
worries.
actually injured
Injured myself for the art. It's worth it for the art.
What have you got to say, Jimmy? We look beautiful.
There you go. Worth it then.
Always. Thank you for letting us be here.
Thank you for coming down.
To take time out of your day.
I bumped into your cousin last week in the middle of Leeds.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him for 2 or 3 years. Walked into a cafe in Leeds. I haven't been to Leeds for about 7 years.
Yeah.
And who sat there? I went, that geezer does look like Dan Ramsden.
Yeah.
Handsome bastard. I was like, it is Dan Ramsden.
You used to say I was the handsome bastard.
No, but he's definitely
He was
like...
the muscle, I was the look.
Yeah, but now you're the muscle and he's the looks. How's that turned around?
It's actually true. He's a little scrawny now. Looking like, come on, Dan. Come on.
And
you was with our mutual friend who we'd not seen in ages. Then I saw Dan straight after and I'd not seen Dan in ages.
And here's the mad thing, right? So the guy that I was with, Gary Rhodes, is a guy who was a catalyst to changing my whole life.
Yeah.
And was introduced to me by you.
By this show.
How's that for going full circle?
Yeah.
Yeah, mad actually think about it.
Has it been a good thing? Are we in a good place now?
We're in a good place.
More confused
we're in a good place.
Well, that's
we had a moment where we're in a dark place. We're in a good place
and
now.
I'm sure we'll have more moments. That's the beauty of life. But yeah, I was reflecting on that driving down. So it's literally been 3 years since we had.
Is it 3 years?
Yeah. 2019.
Wow. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So, and I literally sound like a little boy on it. We was laughing on the way down. I was like, what happened to my voice back then? I mean, I'm not saying like I'm the manliest of men right now. I never will be. But I remember, and Dan and I remember driving back that day. And the main thing we spoke about, I mean, it was incredible. It was an amazing episode. But what shocked us is there was a point in the episode where you got really emotional. Do you remember
about
that?
What?
You cancelled.
I'm a fucking geezer.
You cancelled your birthday.
Oh God, yeah, I did.
And you said,
"Oh my God, yes."
And you said you literally said I had a mental breakdown.
I don't. Yeah, proper flap. Yeah.
And you said that Louis, your son, turned around and said, "Dad, you know."
Oh
that we
God,
love you."
yeah.
And it got you.
Yeah, it killed me.
And we just saw the emotion.
It still gets me now.
And you did what you always do. You
turned into a shit joke.
Recovered and did a shit joke, yeah. And we laughed it off, and that was fine.
What I couldn't tell you at the time was the reason for the flap was the people that I was involved in the business with.
Got you.
Because I was, and obviously maybe we'll cover this, maybe we won't. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, then maybe listen to the previous episode as well. I'm sure there'll be a link in the show notes. See, I'm the podcast king. I know how this shit works,
yes,
right?
Yes, I'll do it, Jimmy.
Yeah.
James, I'll do it.
You take a note, Jimmy.
Do it.
So I was involved in a previous business partnership, which is where we sort of how it all met and how we all got together. And at that point in time, so this was about September time, was it? You came to mine, and I was 2 months away from leaving that business.
And you knew at that point, did you? Or not?
I didn't know fully, but in my gut, something was off, and it had been off for a long time. So having that conversation, because you and Dan were so great at drawing the conversation out of people and being honest and integral and true to your word and all that sort of stuff. So I had to go there, but I couldn't fully go there because the reason I had the flat was I was having a meltdown. I was having a fucking meltdown because every day was so stressful. Every day was so stressful.
In terms of hours working, in terms of
intensity of working. The fact, I think when there's a disalignment between who you are and what you're doing, that shit is like a virus. That shit is genuinely like a virus. If you know, and it's like a drip of poison in the bucket. It won't kill off all the fish to start with, but enough drips of the poison, then eventually you got a bucket full of poison, and that's where I was at.
Yeah.
And it was my birthday, and I just had a complete fucking meltdown. I didn't want the birthday, didn't want people coming over. It was really bizarre because in terms of financially, I was doing really well. From the outside looking in, I was doing really well. I laugh back now looking with my wife. We said we wanted to be the Audi family. We wanted to have 2 Audis. Imagine having 2 black Audis on the drive one day. This when we were in a little 2-bedroom flat in Bromley. Didn't know our ass from our elbow. We didn't know what we were going to do. But true to our word, we've got 2 black Audis on the driveway. We've got a 4 or 5 bed detached house that we're renting before haters come out and go, show me the title deeds. I ain't got the title deeds. It's not my fucking house, mate. I'm renting it. I'm just preempting that might happen.
Yeah.
But so from the outside looking in, for all intents and purposes, stuff was going great.
You'd achieved some of your definition of success.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I was rich and successful. I've done that. Brought it back to the brand. Shit joke to annihilate the emotions. But then, so I got to this point and I was like, I didn't think this is what success was going to feel like.
Yeah.
And the people that I was working with, and again, we won't name names, but you can we'll allude to it, toxic individuals, and the environment that we had created was toxic. Yeah. And we went from, when me and you first met, you turned up as a listener of that podcast. As a fan of that podcast, and then we worked together on your podcast, and then the evolution of that. And it's really interesting how far in the wrong fucking direction you can go if you don't keep checking in with yourself. Because if I looked back, and I think that's for whatever reason, New Year's Eve, Christmas, your birthday, those like seminal moments which almost like make you take a step back, make you take a breather, make you reflect and assess where you're at. And I think that's what it was that caused that flap on my birthday. Because I remember going outside, having loads of people around for a barbecue, and I was like, I don't want anyone in my house. I don't want to fucking be around anyone. I just want to be left the fuck alone today. Because it was literally from 5 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, non-stop pressure all day, every day. And it was non-stop pressure that I knew wasn't aligned with what I wanted to do, and also wasn't actually getting me anywhere. There was so much time for all the bullshit and bluster within that brand. Yeah. Biggest action taking coaching brand in the UK, which it was at one point. Yeah. But it very quickly, tipped over this precipice, and I don't even know when or how it happened. And again, sometimes it's not until you stand somewhere, look back and go, how the fuck did I get to here? You don't see it at the time.
It's hard as well because you were getting results. As you say, financially, you were getting results. You were changing other people's lives. So you're making an impact, you're making a difference. And then there's that whole kind of narrative around, people quit too soon and it's not meant to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So then you can get conflicted thinking, oh, but maybe I'm just having a wobble, and maybe I'm just wrong. Trust the process,
which is good advice to a certain extent. But then, in your heart of hearts,
core values,
your gut will tell you when you're in the wrong, when you're in the wrong place. There was a whole incident that sort of was the catalyst, I think, to the biggest drop of poison going into the bucket. So again, it had been dripping, and I could kind of feel that my moral compass was like, oh, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about this? How do I feel about this? Then there was an incident, I was like, that's fucking wrong. Straight up, that's fucking wrong, and I've got to do something about it. I was in, this was after we recorded the podcast, I'm guessing. I went to Australia, donated a kidney to my brother-in-law. I came back from that, and while I was away, I was running this coaching business, and we also had a media agency that was an offspin from that business. Yeah. Because so many of the coaching clients actually needed personal branding assets, so we did the personal branding assets. Like a lot of businesses do, you sort of add on and bolt on the services that your clients require, and you bulk out, rather than selling to new people, you sell to the same people, but new services. Made sense. So I'm in Australia, And I'm running the business, and it's coming to the end of the tax year. So I'm doing all the books, I'm doing the zero, I'm doing the bookkeeping, I'm managing a lot of the clients remotely. I'm organising events, I'm booking up spaces, I'm dealing, you know, like with a 12-hour time difference from Australia to London, and then
and donating a kidney.
So literally the night before I donated a kidney, right? So I'm sitting there on the sofa. And my wife said to me, "Look, you better get an early night." I'm thinking, "There's no point me having an early night. I'm just going to sit there and think about getting carved up by the butcher of Melbourne tomorrow." And then she came out and she said, "He wasn't actually a butcher. He's a very good surgeon. Tiny hands, luckily, so you've only got a little scarf. Tiny little pig trotter hands." I don't know. I never met him. You're not allowed to meet the people who did the surgery. It's all a bit weird. Anyway, tangent. But so I'm sitting there, and Hayley said, "Do you know that the boys are doing an event?" I said, "Yeah. That's They're doing it at the." I'm trying to be so careful with what I'm saying. They're doing it at one of their houses. Do you know? They're doing a. Oh no, sorry. I said that's at the hotel. I said that's not until January 3rd. I said, "Yeah, I've organised it with the venue tonight." Do you know? No, they're doing another one. I said, "No, they're not doing another one before that. That's the last one. We did an event on the 23rd. I flew out on the 24th or whatever it was. It's on the 3rd." And she went, "No, they're doing one over Christmas. Check your social media." So I found out that my two business partners have, in their infinite wisdom, ironic, because there was no wisdom there, that they have decided that they're going to do a private event. And I was like, oh, okay. So I looked at it, and they basically, it's going to be a one-day coaching package. Again, they're sort of, the same sort of stuff that you teach. Because you know this as a peak performance coach. A lot of the time, you're training the same stuff to people. They just need nudging and reminding. You have to dress it up in a different way. You have to tell people the same information again and again. Because it's the simplest
consistent encouragement, accountability.
100%. That's all the basic foundations of a coaching brand and business.
Yep.
So it's the same sort of stuff as we were teaching, and it was our existing client base who were going to this private function. So the people I was involved with have made 10 grand by doing this event.
Yeah, completely.
And I messaged them
wrong.
and I said, "What's going on here, lads?"
Yep.
I said, I didn't know we were doing this. Oh yeah. We just decided that we're going to do it, because you're away for a long time, so you can't sit around earning no money. I said, well, we're not earning no money because I'm running the business in the background. But I take your point that there's going to be a bit of a gap. But the whole idea was to have a big break. We've been smashing the social media, smashing the event, give it a breather intentionally. We can use the narrative of everyone's gone away for Christmas. You spend, successful guys spending time with their family. I'm away doing whatever I'm doing in Australia. I said, I don't get why we're doing an event. Oh no, we're doing it privately. And I was like, well, how's that going to work? I said, where's that? And then I was like, I clocked what happened. I was like, oh, they're trying to fucking stiff me here.
Yep.
So I said, I can't see the money in the bank. Oh no, we're doing it privately.
Got you.
And I said, how the fuck are you doing it privately? Oh, because you're not here to do it. So it's not really fair that you get a cut of the money. I said, hang the fuck on a second. Not fair I get a cut of the money. I'm sat here in Australia at 10 o'clock at night, my time, because the accountants work in UK time to get all the bookkeeping done and lined up so that we can do all of our VAT returns and all the rest of it.
Yep.
So that's not really fair that I'm doing that, and I'm not really getting paid for that. I'm getting paid 1/3 of it collectively. I said, but you guys are doing an event. I said, this is fucking bollocks. And like, oh, really? And they knew they were in the wrong. They fucking knew they were in the wrong.
Well,
like, really sorry.
You own a third of the company.
Well, exactly. And they try to take it private. It just like a complete lack of business acumen.
Yep.
Anyway, the reason for it, the justification that they gave is, look, we've bought a couple of expensive dogs and we need to pay for them.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's really shit. And that's the day before I go into surgery. That's the day before I go in. So the last thing I think about as they're cutting me open or putting me under was them motherfuckers. And the first thing I thought about, other than, oh shit, that was more painful than I thought it was going to be, because they hadn't given me an anaesthetic, story for another time, cheers where there's a blame and there's a claim. The first thing I thought about was them. I'm literally in recovery, and it's the weirdest. I don't know if you've ever had like major surgery or surgery at all. When they bring you back round, it's the trippiest thing because you're in such a deep sleep, like you might as well be dead. And then all of a sudden there's this like Australian nurse who's rather attractive, by the way. She's going, James, you got to wake up now. You got to wake up. I'm like, why is this Australian chick touching my leg? Have I died? Is this heaven? Fantastic. I'll stay here all day. James, you got to wake up. So I come round, and the first thing I thought about, they're motherfuckers. Genuinely, the last thing I thought about before I got put under, and the first thing I thought about was not, I hope my safety's going to be all right. I hope I wake up the other side of this operation, because it's major surgery. Something could go wrong. They're like, oh, just so you know, there's a 1 in 1,000 chance you won't make it through. Cheers for telling me. No,
them motherfuckers.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't like I thought about Hayley, or I thought about my son, or I thought about, I hope I make it through. Or I hope that it'll be a beautiful experience. I'm donating a kidney to my brother-in-law. Blah blah blah. I was fucking livid. I went to sleep fucking furious. I woke up livid, and I'm like, huh? And that was the point in time where I was like, do you know what? Something's not right. That's December. I didn't leave until the following November. So then after you've been a goddamn hero looking down the camera and given a kidney, you can't fly home to England for a long time because of like potentially like bleeding out or something. It's all very like, they make it sound all very scary, but you've got to recover from the operation. You can't go on a flight because of air pressure and stuff. So I had to stay for 6 weeks. So I'm there until February. So I come back in February and we start doing our first events again as a company. I landed back on the Saturday, I think it was. On the Monday, we had our first event. And before we started that first event, there's an Aggie energy in the room. And you've unfortunately experienced firsthand what that Aggie energy can be like. Like, we've got to have a conversation. I said, yeah, we fucking do have to have a conversation. You're damn right we do. And that's how I delivered it. Because for whatever reason, I could with those guys. Most people are quite intimidated by them, and they're intimidating people. I'm not saying you go, oh, fucking won't scare them, because
I think most people are paying them to coach them.
Yes.
So there's a hierarchy.
Yes.
You was on a level, we're in business.
Yeah, and also weirdly, because I was the one running the business, the hierarchy was almost like, I'm running it, and you two are the attention grab. Now,
you added the intellect, you added the structure, the strategy.
Yeah.
They just kind of go on impulse and loads of noise.
And attention, effectively. So we have this meeting, and they masters of manipulation, because they managed to sort of spin it around that I was the one who had a flat. Oh, you've been away for so long. You've been away from work. You've been away from the right people. You've been around a weak crowd of people. Blah blah blah. You've had a big flap. Don't worry about it. Because I said to them, I don't know where we go from here. I said, because I feel like on some level there's a massive layer of trust that's been broken. And I said, you guys always say, ride or die, it's all or nothing, blah blah blah. I said from how I'm seeing it, you're not the message that you preach. And they got the fucking ump with it. I was like, I'm just telling you how I feel, right? Whether you think it's right or wrong, you're entitled to your opinion, as am I. It's only an opinion at the end of the day. But I feel that you fucking shafted me there, and you fucking know it because of how quickly you were retracting and apologising, and that doesn't make it okay. I want to move on from here, but I'm really like, I've got concerns. And that never left. That was February, and that never left. And the whole way through that year, chipping away. Yeah. And the reason why, we mentioned our mutual friend that you connected me with all those years later. The reason why I started doing my own podcast was I realised I've got to feather my own nest. Because I'm making them too rich.
Yeah.
I'm making them too rich. Take me out. I mean, look at it now. Take me out of it, and the house of cards has fallen down. And not that I'm like a business oracle or anything like that, but for whatever reason, I had a layer of insight and acumen and a plan, and would stick with the plan. And I had the ear of the kings. I had their respect for a certain period of time, and it wasn't until I could see what was going to happen. I was like, these guys will always get more attention because they are very, very. They are very clickbaitable. They're very, they've got a stature and a presence that makes you go, oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know that they're always going to be the big attention grab, and I'll always have to be the engine behind it. And it wasn't a case of my ego was fractured because I knew which game everyone was playing. And after I left, by the way, I had so many people like, we could see what was happening. What an amazing brand you built. You could see you were the one building it. So I started doing my own podcast as protection for what was inevitably going to come in the end, which was going to be them trying to fuck me over. So I basically got in there first and started my own podcast, which put noses out of joint. And then I met Gary Rhodes, who you had introduced me to, and went for a meal. And it's an amazing story. Obviously, I've not told you this. I was telling Dan this. I'm not sure if you even know this. Maybe I've shared it with you privately. But I went to meet Gary Rhodes, and I met him on the day after I come back from 5 days in South Africa. And I was gone with one of my business partners. Yep. The other one couldn't be asked to go. He had made a load of noise about giving back and then couldn't be fucked to go for the next 6 times. That's an aside.
Brilliant.
if that wounded somebody listening, then good. Ultimately good. But I was sitting there, and I'd been away in South Africa for like 5 days, and we had painted a school. And we've been out and done a feeding station. We've been to support the orphanage we're supporting. Went and give a keynote talk to 60 local kids. And I hadn't enjoyed my trip. Obviously, in the moment, I was enjoying it. But I said, overall, I was thinking, I've not enjoyed this. Every moment of downtime where it's been just me and the business partner, who I used to really have an affinity for. Like, don't get me wrong, I was like, this guy's a bit fucking broken in quite a lot of ways. But I could see it for what it is and still enjoy their company.
But now there was a complete
names so far. But now
you're doing very well, by the way. Yeah,
I was like, I'm like, I don't like your company.
Yeah,
and fundamentally, not only do I not like your company, I don't like who the fuck you are. vicious, arrogant, conceited, not interested. So I got back. So I'm sitting there on the flight. I couldn't really sleep on the flight on the way back. And I'm like, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. I land back. This is like the fucking universe or whatever you believe in. I land back at Heathrow after this overnight flight from South Africa.
Yep.
And my phone don't know why I made a knocking noise. It's not 1993. Whatever noise an Apple makes. What noise it makes? Whatever. No one knows. My phone goes off is the point I'm trying to make it. And it's Gary Rhodes.
Yeah.
Who I've never met in my life. I've just heard from you and Dan what a lovely guy is. Got to connect with him.
Yeah.
And he's coming on my podcast. And the first recording session is the next day. So this is Monday morning. Hey, James, I'm going to be in London a day early. Do you fancy meeting up? It'd be great to go for dinner or whatever ahead of the podcast tomorrow. I am tired. I've been on an overnight flight. Can't really be asked. And I've got to drive from Heathrow back to my house in South East London. I'm like, I can't really be bothered. But something was just like, just go.
Pulling you towards it.
Went home, dumped the bag, had a shower, got changed, went up to London. Met Gary and had a conversation that changed the direction of my life. And he literally said in this restaurant, it's this amazing, I'd never been there. Everything just lined up. I went to this restaurant I'd never been to. Amazing experience. I just instantly loved him and Nicola. For whatever reason, I just loved who they were as people. I just fucking loved the souls of these people. Sitting down in the restaurant, he's like, I'm brilliant what you're building with that brand. I'm not completely keen on all the content that I see the other two putting out, but I can see what you're doing. I can see how it would resonate with certain people.
Yeah.
It's not always my cup of tea, but I can see what you're doing. It's very smart.
This is a guy who's, got many years in business, learned a lot from Tony Robbins, has been at his events. So he's really
business partners with him as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
totally gets the whole personal development.
Yes.
But he just saw that there was something not quite right.
Yeah. And he's someone who understands personal development and business development.
Yes.
So he's not like he's not an airy-fairy event attender who's going, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to put it post-it notes on my mirror and hopes that some money's going to turn up. It's a guy who's made a hell of a lot of money, hell of a lot of success, and he's probably the most well-connected guy that I've ever met.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in this restaurant, and I've known this guy now for a grand total of about 25 minutes. And he says to me, so it's really interesting what you've done with the business. What comes next? And I said, do you know what, Gary? I've been thinking about this for the last few days. I actually don't know. And it's the first time, because again, within that environment, you sort of had to have a certain posture or whatever. I was like, I don't really know, mate. I said, I think that I've taken, with the business acumen that I've got, with the skill set that I've got, I think I've kind of taken this to the end of my ability. I actually don't know what comes next. I guess we'll find out. He said, it's great to hear that. He said, the fact you've done so well and you think that now you're sort of plateauing, that's always a good sign because it means it's the next level of growth. The thing you need to focus on really, as I see it, is collaborations. I said, I get it because I was in talks with some of the former apprentice winners about doing mutual, like these are like co-speaking events. I said, I get it. I said, unfortunately, my business partners don't believe in collaboration. He said, well, you've got the wrong business partners then, haven't you? And when someone says something, it just like stops you fucking dead in your track. And I was like, oh, fuck. Anyway, conversation carries on a little bit more. And then he says something to me, which will probably be one of the last things I think about before I leave this mortal coil. And he said to me, he said, look, and when you've been around Tony Robbins, when you've been like partners with Tony Robbins and like he's done business with Tony Robbins, these people are on like a different spiritual level. Like there's just something a bit otherworldly about them.
Yeah.
He looked me, not in my eye, he looked through me into my fucking blackened soul and my ruined little shriveled heart. And he said, look, in my experience, for every day that you don't make a decision that you ultimately deep down you need to make, you put yourself a month behind in your own life. So the only question becomes, my friend, looks deeper into my soul. He said, how many months behind in your own life would you like to get? And then he just stopped. And he just looked at me. I was like, oh! When you like feel the fucking air getting sucked out of the room. And I was like, I didn't have an answer. But for the first time, probably in 2.5 years, I didn't feel like I needed to grapple for an answer or like look like I knew more than this guy that I sat with. And I was like, do you know what? In that instant, I was like, I've got to go. I've got to get the fuck out of that business. So we sort of stayed around and finished our dinner, which was an incredible steak dinner, by the way. They either serve you steak and chips or steak with no chips. It's the weirdest restaurant of all time.
That's it.
But amazing. It's called Entrecote or something. Well, fancy. About 50 quid. They're like, here's your steak. How would you... I was like, oh, do you need to know how I like it cooked? They're like, no. You will eat it like this. I'm like, okay, fine. Left the restaurant about an hour later and spoke to Hayley. So I've been in South Africa and she was away.
You actually voice noted me that night. Do you remember?
Did I?
Yeah. With utter excitement. You just went, Matt, I've got to tell you, thank you so much for putting me in touch. I just had the most...
I?
Yeah, you were so Yeah, I'll find you the voice note afterwards. We'll listen back.
Amazing. Yeah, so what I obviously couldn't tell you, because obviously you were sort of
you
like
didn't
getting
disclose anything.
linked
Yeah.
to the former business partners, but I phoned Hayley, so I hadn't seen her because it was like half term, so she was away with our little one. So I haven't seen her for like 4 or 5 days. She's like, oh, hey, babe, how are you? I hadn't spoken to her that day because it'd been rushing around from the airport and stuff. How you doing? I said, I'm leaving the business. And she went, oh, good dinner then. What the fuck are you talking about? And then I just explained to her. I was like, this is what I've been thinking. This is what I've been... And she knew. Yeah. And Hayley was another big catalyst for me to say that I was going to go. So that was the Monday night. Justified it in my head. And I'm going home on the train. I'm thinking, just cool your jets a second here. Like, you've only just met this guy. He's not a fucking guru. He's not like, he's not the reincarnation of like Bradford's Buddha. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe
I think he might actually.
I think he might be, to be fair.
But at the time,
so at the time, I'm justifying it in my head. I'm thinking, just chill, let's see what I find tomorrow in the cold light of day, when I'm not like tired from a travel and all that shit. I don't know why I was justifying it. I'm thinking, this guy can't be all that I think he is. Anyway, meet him the next day, and he's more than I thought he was. Yeah. And again, we just like this instant connection with him and Nicola, and I was like, I just fucking love these two, and I've just got to trust that he's got no vested interest to say anything to me other than what will serve me. And by the way, he's not said to me, "You got to get out of that business." He's simply posed the question. And I'm like, oh my fucking God.
The answers were there inside, and he pulled them out.
The answers had been there since February. Yeah. Since that come to Jesus conversation with the business partners, and that was kind of it. And then
looking
I
back on that period now, because what you said at the beginning is you basically achieved what you thought was success, didn't feel how you expected. There was massive sacrifice and consequence, but still you learnt a lot, right? If you was to look back on that whole experience at this point, knowing what you know now, if you could break it down, what are some of the key lessons from that period of life?
Number one lesson, all the money that you put in your bank isn't yours to keep. You have to give some to the tax man. Keep a nice chunk of it aside, or else you're going to get well unstuck, which I came to later find out in a very painful way when the former accountant was like, hey, you got a 14 grand tax bill and you got 6 days to pay it. I was like, oh, sure, okay. Scrabbled together and got the 14 grand together because I just wanted to do anything I could to just exit that business. So I exited that business, phoned the accountant straight away and said, take my company's house. Yeah. And he's like, mate, he's like, you've built like a best part of £1 million business here. It's like, there's brand equity. You should be, do you not want to try and sell your shares to the others? I went, do I fuck? Get me off that register now. I said, it's going to fucking come down like a house of cards. I don't want nothing to do with it. I said, I understand you're still working.
I think there's a lesson there as well. It's not the money you make, it's how you make it.
Yes.
It's make it because you're there actually willing to lose money,
yeah.
throw money at it to get away. And I had a very similar exit, and when you know that it's disaligned, the money no longer matters, which is interesting because there'll be a lot of people watching this now when they think money is the answer to their current problems.
And also I want to underpin that even further because they might be listening going, well, you've done £1 million business, so you're in a position to say the money doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
No.
By the time that I had, because the day that I left, the day that I quit that company, I didn't even quit. Cause quit is, is a presupposition that you give something up. I fucking didn't give anything up. I just gave it back and see you later. But that day we'd taken on a client that was going to pay us 60 grand for the year.
Yeah.
So there was a 15 grand payday for each of us because that's how we used to run the business. Like fucking morons. We take a third of the money each and keep a third to one side, or supposedly we keep a third to one side until they wanted like another luxury shirt or a fucking dog or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And again, I'm not speaking. I'm being careful with what I'm saying, but it's just the reality. It is what it is. That was the way of operating. So I had effectively, there was a big payday that day, the day the money came in. And obviously I left that same day. So I said, before we get all excited about this client, can I have a chat with you two? And they're like, yeah, what's up? I said, look, I'm done. I think I've taken this as far as I can take it. I think you guys will always have each other. You guys will always be a brand in yourselves. I think you'll always be a brand collectively, the two of you. I said, but I don't see how I fit in this equation anymore. And, again, the clever manipulation. Oh, but isn't this is a bit of a pattern of yours. You get to a certain stage and you don't take any further. Don't you think you've been a bit quick to judge, blah, blah, blah. And to be fair, the first time around, they talked me around. They did talk me around. I was like, look, I just think I've got to go and do my own thing. I really want to do this podcast stuff. I had an inkling to do the podcast. I loved doing it. And that's pretty much one of the only things that I liked about that business. And it was probably because I controlled that whole thing. I controlled the podcast. I made the content. I did it. Blah blah blah. It was a top, one of the top podcasts in the UK. It was doing really well. But it's probably that element of control. When I look back at it now, that's probably why I enjoyed that part of it so much. So I justified. That's why I was going to go to go down this podcast venture and adventures. I got talked around, and then eventually I was like, do you know what? I got in the car after that meeting, and Hayley said, and this is what I actually did it in public in case it kicked off. Like I intentionally did it somewhere very public in case it went sideways, and then we could get out of trouble as quick as possible, sort of thing. So I was intentional with how I had done it. Left the meeting that day, phoned Hayley, who's again away. She always seemed to be on holiday. Oh, to be rich again. I will be. And I phoned her and she said, how'd you do? I said, I told him. She went, oh, amazing. I was like, yeah, but I think I'm going to stay. And she's like, oh, okay. She went, I love you more than anything. I'll support whatever you want to do. But I think this is wrong. I'm just going to leave it there. I'll speak to you later. And I was like, oh, when like your parents they weren't angry, they were disappointed. I was like, oh no, that's worse, man. Yeah. So anyway, about a week later, me and Hayley, she was away at like, I say it was a holiday. She was like Walton on the Naze in Essex. Glamorous. Shout out to Walton. So I went down there. She was staying in a caravan with her mum and dad, and she took a nephew away and our son. So I went down there for a couple of nights, and she's like, why have you changed your mind? We went for a walk down the beach one night. She went, why have you changed your mind? I was like, I don't actually know. I got convinced. I said, I don't actually want to fucking stay. I don't. She went, well, don't then. So that was it. So that was the Friday or Saturday. And then I just said to the boys on the that following week on the Monday, I was like, I'm out, because there was big meetings with a clothing manufacturer coming up, and I was supposed to travel up north to go and I was like, I can't do it to them there. So I still had an element of respect for them, and I wanted to do the right thing by them. I didn't want to just fucking rocket or chuck a grenade in 5 minutes before we walk into this meeting. I was like, I wanted to do this face to face. I wanted to do it in the right way, but time is not going to allow for it, because the next time I'm going to see you is going to be in York. I can't be in York, and here's why: because I'm out, and I'm fully out. So like, okay, cool, right? You pay back the money that you just had. That's fine. So when I'm talking, going back, short story long, when I'm talking about saying no to the money from the accountant, I didn't have loads of money at this point, because I've just lumped back in 5 or 10 grand or whatever it was from the money we've just taken. There's a 14 grand tax bill coming. Luckily I had 2 investment properties when I was being more sensible that I'd bought earlier in my career. I'd sold them because they were just ticking over. They weren't making me any real money. I was like, the money would be more useful. Luckily that landed, like 30 odd grand or something out of the sale of 2 houses, because they're in Sheffield, and Sheffield houses are really cheap. I had like 30 grand profit. 15 of that went straight out to the tax. That was it. So now I'm back to having made 15, 20 grand a month for months now, to having a 15k pot with a 7.5 grand a month lifestyle bill. And I still said, I don't want the money.
Yeah. But your lifestyle just adapts with the income, right? So that's the thing people don't understand. Oh, well,
and when you hear this, you'll be like, oh, I wouldn't be like that. You fucking will. I'm telling you. You will.
Yeah. I think that's really important to realize, that you can have a perspective before you've done it yourself.
Yes.
It's often going to be very different.
Yes.
And I think one thing that I've always thought fascinating about you is you have the strength to quit, because, you have a lot of experience in different industries. And I think when I look at what makes people successful, and by success in this kind of definition, I mean, people who go out, make things happen and achieve things that are aligned with their purpose, the vast majority of people just stay in those relationships, stay in those businesses or in that job for the remainder of their life, and be unhappy about it. And I think one of your talents, there's that phrase they always say that, quitters never win and winners never quit. You're a fantastic quitter. Like, that is one of your
tagline. Stick that on my tombstone. He quit everything.
But I think that is something we all need to get good at. Like, when it's not aligned with your soul and with your gut instinct, it's right immediately. Yeah. But then we can kid ourselves, convince ourselves, be manipulated by other people that want their own interests to be met, that are not in our best interests. And I think one of the best things people could learn from you is understand when to quit, and don't allow it to prolong year after year after year after year. Other people look from the outside going, he's just moving from one thing to the other. What an idiot. He can't stick at anything. I said to you before we started recording, I will live in the dream now, because you've got this incredible studio here.
Yeah.
every single morning you've basically got, as you put it, your own radio show, primetime breakfast that you can't get fired from. Because we're talking about Clubhouse.
Yeah.
We're not talking about actual radio that
Can't
that
sack
have
me
bosses.
from my own house,
Can't sack
man.
you from your own house. So talk to us about now, like as somebody who has gone, nope, this doesn't feel right, I'm leaving. Because I know very quickly you had your own podcast, then you went into business with somebody else. Months later, you quit that.
Yeah.
Bit by bit, you've gone, no, if it doesn't align, I'm moving. Where are we at now?
So it's really interesting, your analogy about quitting. And I think you're right, by the way. I think there is times where, sometimes you have to grow through what you're going through.
Correct.
I think that's 100% the right thing. But again, you've just got to listen to your gut intuition.
Yeah.
Gut intuition. And also, like I say, to have that willingness to not care what the outside thinks or looks like, but to be, now I'm in a really good place. I went through a dark period. And I don't want to sugarcoat it for anybody. And I don't want to make it sound like, I skipped from thing to thing to thing. I'd had, for all intents and purposes, big success. I had no financial worries. I had the cars that I always wanted. I lived in a beautiful house.
Yeah.
I'm married to my best friend. Don't tell my wife. Oi. Joking. But she, the love of my life, got 2 healthy kids. I was living the dream. It's a very, very strange thing to choose to quit success. It's a very strange thing. I could still be doing that now. And we could have
but it wasn't
incrementally
success.
grown. But
That's not what you quit.
Yeah. So the perception,
But the
it's
perception
hard
of
to quit the
success.
perception of success.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been, and I haven't got a rags to riches tale. My dad was an accountant. There's an accountancy practice. I'm from Middle England. Like I wasn't eating out of a dustbin. I wasn't from a council estate.
Yeah.
I had a comfortable life, comfortable upbringing. And I just basically went from shit job to shit job, just trying to find what made me happy.
Okay.
And what I enjoy doing.
So you base success on happiness,
100%.
not finances.
100%. But finances has an impact on your happiness.
Of course.
Because also what I don't want people to think is, well, I just need to be happy. No, you fucking don't. Because having been happy and broke and happy and rich, I'd much rather be happy and rich.
Yep.
It helps. Because money, first and foremost, money just makes you more of what you are. If you're a prick, you're going to be a prick with money. If you're a nice guy, you'll be a nice guy with money. Sometimes you can be a nice guy who thinks they're a prick for a bit. Like I probably had that little bit of a detour in life. But ultimately, it's a magnifying glass. It will just show you to be more of what you are. But it gives you more choices. So don't take away from the message of this podcast, I just need to chase happiness, because you don't. You need to chase money as well. You need to do both things at the same time. But again, to your point of like quitting, the biggest thing I had to quit was my ego.
Got you.
Was that whole facade that I created. Because effectively, for all intents and purposes, I've been this business owner for 2 or 3 years, lumping out 15, 20 grand a month and doing these events, going to South Africa and speaking on stage with Les Brown and interviewing Grant Cardone and Elena Cardone. And then I was going to have to go into this business, or I didn't have to, but I chose to go into this business with James Sinclair and effectively be his right-hand man, to elevate him to be the star of the show. And effectively, because of the way that the deal was structured, it was like almost like a salary. So I was like, oh, fuck, I feel like I'm working for someone again.
How did you feel about that?
It's such a weird combination. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved being around Jim. From going from the people that I've been around before to working with James was like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Because there's the guys I worked with before, with respect, and they have got great qualities. That's why people are attracted to them. Effectively, old school roadman sales mentality.
Yep.
Went from selling crack to selling motivation. That's the only difference. They're just selling a different thing, but selling it in the same way, to working with an actual proper astute business operator. And I was like, wow, what a difference. And I watched, James run this company. I watched him do acquisitions. I watched how and the best thing was that the role that I went there to do was to help create this online university of all of James Sinclair's business acumen. I was like, well, this could be a much better,
this is
a much better position to be in. I'm literally getting paid to learn from this guy who is mega at what he does. Unfortunately, that was in 2020, and obviously the pandemic then came along, and part of it was going to be live events and all the rest of it. I couldn't do it, so I got put on furlough. But something had tugged at me. It was like, I'm employed. I'm getting a PAYE check, which doesn't cover 1/3 of my living expenses, and Jim knew that. He was very fair about he was like, well, as fast as we can scale it up, the majority of the money will come to you. There's a partnership agreement there, so I was in partnership. I was also employed. It was a very weird setup, and it did tug at me, but it didn't tug at me because of my ego. It tugged at me because of the opportunity. I was like, I've jumped out of the frying pan into a very, very different and much nicer fire, but I've put myself back in that same situation. where I can only grow to the level that I can elevate someone else's position. My background's working with brands like Nando's, Thomas Cook, BMW in the PR world. So I'm used to hyping up other things and making them get the attention, all the rest of it. So that's all I'd done effectively with the business partners, and now I was doing it with James. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But anyway, pandemic comes along, and obviously that shuts everything down. We went on furlough, and I just phoned him. And I love James. We speak to each other 5 times a day. We've got a real good friendship, because we were sort of pals before we were partnered up in that business.
Yeah.
And we remained really good friends. And I just phoned him one night. I said, look, Jim, I love you dearly, but I literally can't afford to sit around on furlough and wait. I need to do something. And that's when I launched the podcast agency. So that was kind of it. Then from launching the podcast agency, I started doing more training for people on how to do a podcast. Then people started saying to me, could you do a podcast for me? Could you actually do the production? Which I'd never had the time to do because I was just busy doing other stuff, running other companies. So now I was like, well, I haven't got anything else to do. I have got the time. I might as well do it. And from there, we created quite a successful little agency. So that's kind of where we're at now. Then the podcast thing then led to me working with Natasha Hamilton, who used to be in Atomic Kitten. And she had told me about this thing called Clubhouse. And I was like, oh, I'm not really sure. She's like, oh, you've got to go and check it out.
Didn't you actually initially say Clubhouse ain't going to work? And you actually did some posts saying...
I did a podcast.
Oh, you did an episode?
I did a podcast saying why Clubhouse is the biggest waste of time in 2021.
And that was the title?
Maybe. So I give myself a bit of wiggle room just to be wrong.
Just a bit.
And I was. And then Clubhouse has just been the catalyst to open up a whole new world of opportunities. You know, the reason we're sat in this room right now is because of Clubhouse. Yeah. I've got another business partnership because of Clubhouse, which again, I entered into very, very timidly because of what I'd got on previously. But if I look back now, my ego took a knock. My confidence took a knock. I think probably for a year after I left that business, I was like, whoa, what the fuck has just happened here? I was a bit all at sea. I was like, how did I get... it was all of my own choosing, by the way. I'm not trying to say I was a victim in being cajoled into a situation, because effectively what people might be hearing is, hang on a second, so you went and you were like 1/3 owner of a business that did best part of £1 million. You decided to leave and you left, and your business partners were they were arseholes. Big fucking whoop.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
But it was the internal damage that it had done. And it was that I had to not reinvent myself, but re-find myself, because I had gone in a different direction. I hadn't completely become someone different, but I had definitely walked that path of not always being entirely 100% me.
Do you think that's important, though, to really align with who you truly are?
Yes.
I agree.
I mean, it's the most important thing you could do. I think it's the most important thing
I think there's an important lesson here, because people speak about, especially when we talk about, for example, coaches, it's like walk in my path, walk in my shoes, don't make the mistakes I made. I actually disagree to some level. I think the best thing you can do is make your own mistakes.
Yeah.
Because you can have a perception of what making 1.7 million in 18 months will be like. You can have a perception, in my case, of doing a bodybuilding show, and you can say, well, that's stupid. You'll be restricted on diet, or, to make that amount of money in the way that you were, it's going to be 19-hour days. It's going to be too much. You're going to burn out. You can hear all that. However, if you've got certain goals and certain things you want to achieve, you want to figure out, actually, can I do that? And can I make it work? And actually, you only figure it out on the other end of that.
100%. That was my biggest, actually, you touched on something brilliant there. That was my biggest internal, it wasn't like a challenge. Or was it a challenge? That was my biggest internal, I'm going to use the word pain. But for about a year, I was like, can I recreate that success?
Yeah.
Perceived success. Can I generate those sorts of results financially? And can I have that level of impact initially by myself?
And in a better way.
And in a better way that aligns with who I actually am. And I didn't know.
Yeah. Because you've not done it before.
Never done it before.
So then that's the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, the stuff that people 100%. Talk about. But that to me is an indicator you're on the right path.
But with the foundation of you've already done it, you've already made it, you're already successful. Because a lot of people looked at me, and again, not like I'm the big I am, but in terms of like the podcasting world, the branding world, like people know me to have had a level of achievement. Again, success is all a fucking perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the perception is that I've had success. So how do I go and do it again? Have I got, and at certain points, like, have I got the fight in me to go and do it again?
But that's the other thing.
Have I got the fight
Because
in
it
me
wasn't
to go
everything
and do
you
it
expected
again?
it to be. You know, you talked about getting the cars not feeling right. Have I got the drive? There's that phrase that I've been thinking about a lot just recently. Success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds failure. And I know the last 7 months, well, certainly the last 6 months, since I moved away from the involvement with the same people, we're doing really well. No names have been mentioned.
This is incredible. Isn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, really good.
Send this to a lawyer, see if you can sue me. You can't. I haven't seen your name.
Literally, the 6 months of leaving, there was a level of complacency because it's almost like fighting back against it was so extreme. It was so intense. I worked so hard for so long. I deserve to, whatever it may be, have a day off from the gym, eat a little bit less shit food, have an actual day off from working. Like, what a crazy idea that is. But then it started to then build up into complacency.
Yeah.
Then it started to, but that started with exactly what you said there. Do I even have the drive? Do I even care? Do I want it? And actually, I had a conversation with Gary Rhodes recently, and I remember him speaking
Rhodes,
about.
go back to Gary fucking Rhodes.
That's why he's called that, right? But I remember it was about a month after I left. We went for lunch, and this is a guy who's, you know, as you said, been very, very successful personally and financially, and he said what he's learned. I think he's about 41. Like, I don't want to give his name away, but his age away. But I think he's about 41, and he said at this stage now, if you can do about 20,000 a month, and he said I've done way more, and I've had all the nicest things in life. Anything more, in his opinion, isn't worth the level of sacrifice for the level of reward.
Yeah, I get that.
And that really resonated.
Yeah.
Because I thought, do I want to go for that sort of money that I was doing? Do I want to be in that shape with the six pack and the big arms based on the sacrifice to get there?
Yeah.
Now, for the first time in my life, I feel like I've found genuine contentment and fulfillment on a level I've never experienced before. Not because I've got more going on now from an external achievement point of view, but because I know I don't need it.
Yeah.
Because I know the level of sacrifice to get that level of reward. Is it really a reward? You sat there with the cars. I sat there with the six pack and went, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I don't need the cars. I don't need the six pack. But then that breeds more complacency. And then you start to convince yourself, well, I don't need to get up. I don't need to work out. Then actually it spills over.
Then you start,
and
it's
then
detrimental the other way, 100%.
You lose drive. And I'm always interested in this kind of balance between, we know that happiness comes from gratitude, but when does gratitude create laziness, complacency? And it's about finding gratitude to be drive, to be better, because I'm grateful that I've got a great opportunity. I'm grateful that I'm in good health. I don't want to now just spill over into being so grateful I don't need to do anything. That's something I've been battling with, and I feel like for the last literally 4 to 5 weeks, for the first time I've got a good balance. What's balance look like for you?
It probably is that contentment. That contentment, because I love work. I love work. I love working. I got up this morning at 5 o'clock.
You still do mad hours now, don't you?
Still do mad hours now because I love it. I genuinely love it. Like I was saying to you at the weekend, I'm going to be going up to Leeds. I'll drive for 4 hours to get to Leeds. I'm then going to do a brand consultancy session, which will probably go on until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'll then get up the next day. I've got a clubhouse room that I've got to run from 6:30 till 9 o'clock. I'm then going to go straight into a branding session. I'm then going to go, a recording session for a content creation session. The next day, I'm going to do another 12-hour day. Then I'll drive home again. I fucking love it. I love it. But I also love being at home. I love being with my kids. I love being with my wife. I love film nights. I love the ability to put my phone on the side and not look at it for 5 hours. I think it's about finding the things that make you happy, but also that grow you. Because like at the weekend, for example, I still like going to the gym.
Yeah.
I still want to get up and do something. I don't like sitting around in my pajamas all day. So I think it's about doing the stuff that makes you happy in a way that makes you happy. Because again, that's the kind of the perception of success or whatever it may be, is that I was never striving for external validation with what I created before. I was probably striving for internal validation more than anything, but I just got really into it. And I'm an all-in kind of guy. Like if it's on, like let's fucking go, it's on. But equally, I can talk myself out quite quickly. And that's the bit with leaving that business. And I had to sense check myself. I was like, am I leaving this too quickly? Or am I not? But again, then come back to that intuition. And even like daft things, right? Like just take a bit more time to think, what is it that I actually want to do? You know, when I looked back and I thought to myself, right, what is it that I've actually achieved? Well, I was the person who created at the time the UK's fastest growing coaching brand. I blew that up, then left that. I've now grown a 6-figure podcast agency through a pandemic from a standing start with no capital. I didn't start that agency because I wanted to. I started it because I fucking needed to pay the bills. It was that simple. Month 1 did $7,500.
Yeah.
First ever client was first ever client was you. Rich in Success.
Was it? When we did the
theme music.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the first ever client, 150 quid.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. So that was, how mad is that?
We did the rebrand.
The rebrand.
Yeah.
That was the first
Every
one
pivotal part of your life, I'm there popping
there,
up like,
yeah.
hey!
Hello.
That must mean something big's going to happen today. Get ready.
So then when I look, 7-figure coaching business, 6-figure brand agency, podcast agency from a standing start. I've now got people knocking down my door for me to do brand consultancy for them, and I've grown Europe's fastest growing entrepreneurial community on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Now, don't say this stuff to go look how clever I am. I'd say that to let people know that in the midst of this, I was still saying to myself, can I do this on my own? Have I got what it takes?
But you just kept getting up and going.
What was it that made me successful?
Yeah.
What made me financially secure in that business? Can I do that by myself? So whilst I was still doing it, and that's another great message I think for people, whether you think you can or you can't, just fucking have a go and give it everything that you've got. Yeah. Give it everything you fucking got.
And then you'll know.
And listen to your fucking gut. Because I knew that there was times with the podcast agency, there were months where, you know, we struggled to pay the fucking bills, you know, because it was lockdown. You know, everything you could put a payment holiday on, we did. Cars, mortgage, rent. Everything we could stop paying, we stopped paying like half the world did. But then when it all kicked back in again, I was like, oh, fuck, how am I still going to struggle to pay the bills? I've struggled to pay the bills for the last 12 months, 18 months since leaving that business. So that every month you think, I'm doing stuff. I'm doing celebrity podcasts. I'm doing these collaborations. We're growing this brand. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're doing the other. I've still got to find 11, 12 grand a month to cover my cost of living.
That requires
so hard.
Self-belief, willpower, and belief in what you're doing.
Yeah. And the second that you don't have belief in yourself, then you're fucked. Then you're really in trouble. Because in those moments where it was hard to pay the bills, in those moments where you're like, fuck, how have I only done like $8,000 out of the podcast agency this month, but my staff bill's 4,000. So I've only got 4K, then I need to allow for tax. I've got to take the 4K at the moment and use it to pay my rent. So I'm not even managing my money in the right way.
So in those moments, how do you keep the belief? What did you have to do to keep showing up?
I just knew, again, I listened to my gut. I was like, when I knew something was wrong and I listened to it, I felt better. And I knew this was right. So I've just got to keep listening to my gut.
You'll figure it out.
I've just got to keep listening to my gut. I know that it will work out. This is how daft it was, right? I didn't know how much money I'd done in the first year of the business because I was so busy. I'll just go.
Yeah.
The accountant turned around and he said, do you know you've done 130 grand year one in a pandemic? He's like, do you know how many people do that? I was like, no. He went, very fucking few.
Yeah.
By the way, you also should have been charging VAT for the last fucking 50 grand. So now you have to lump in that money. I was like, oh shit,
Another big bill. Brilliant.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Just what I needed. It's always that fucker who's asking me for loads of money to give to HMRC. But
then you pay him.
Wow, that's what I've done. I didn't know that I was doing that. So again, it's sort of how much harder did I make the journey for myself? Because if I could have seen that, if I could have seen within 7 months of starting that business, I hit the VAT threshold.
Yeah.
How much more belief in myself would I have had? But I got too focused in the doing of stuff. So whilst I say, just give it all you've got, be smart at the same time, because I am still guilty of working more hard than I work more smart. And I realise how dumb I sound in that sentence, but I've said it that way intentionally.
Yeah.
Work more smart than you are working more hard. And if you get that balance, no one, I know a lot of people say, no one can fucking outwork me. Genuinely, and it's not a badge of honour, if I need to get something done, it's going to take 20 hours, I will just sit there and just get it done. It takes 20 hours. But that will get you from where you are to a certain level. It will not get you to the top echelons of any industry because the people who are winning, work smart and work hard. And the other thing I'd say is find positive role models who you don't have to be like, but you like. Yeah. So I've been watching and reading a lot of and listening to a lot of content by a guy called Rob Dyrdek. He's a guy in the States. I think I told you to listen to his podcast. It's brilliant. It's called Build with Rob. It's fantastic. And he's done 25 exits in the last 6 years, worth $400 million, and splits his time up into thirds. Third of the time he sleeps, third of the time with family, third of the time he works. He still records 250 episodes for MTV of his TV show each year. He's still got 12 active investments going on at the moment, but he builds his life around what he wants. He knows what he wants, and then he builds his life accordingly. And, you know, I'm not in the personal circle of Rob Dyrdek yet. I will be. But I can look at him and go, I like what you've done there. I can emulate that. And I can take the smart and the hard work and combine it together. And also know, whether you want to hear this or not, and however this lands for you will tell you exactly what you need to know potentially. Where you are right now is exactly where you are supposed to be. Where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. It happens to be Thursday today, having a great day, got a load of cool stuff going on, doing a podcast with you. That's brilliant. A few months ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I was where I should be. And that's really important. If you are you are exactly where you're supposed to be, that's a great place, brilliant. What are you doing that's working? Keep doing it. If you're not in a great place, also brilliant. At least now you're aware of it, because the first step to any change is being aware of it. Do something fucking different.
Love it. What's your biggest weakness right now?
Split focus. But again, the first step of any change is being aware of it.
Yeah.
And what I would previously do is I'd outwork that. Well, if I've got to do this, this, and this, well, that they all require 6 hours of my time, but I'll just work 18 hours. Whereas now I'm like, right, how can I work smarter? I'm still not the finished article, and that split focus still trips me up, but I'm aware that I need to improve it. Whereas before I wasn't. I was like, well, I'll just work harder, just work harder. You know, I'd sit in my home office for, you know, quite often for 18-hour days. You know, I used to drive all around the country, out of the house 5 days a week, staying in hotels. Why? If I look back at it now, that was hard work, not smart work. I don't know what I don't know, but now I know that I don't know. If that makes any sense.
It's a step forward, awareness.
100%.
And then the next step is figuring out how to get better.
It's like taking, like, for on a micro level, right? The time that I employed my first full-time employee for the podcast agency, I was like, I'm definitely going to need an audio engineer. But before that, I got so busy in the admin. I was like, I actually need a PA or a team manager. I'm going to get someone straight out of college. I'll pay him 16 grand or whatever. Couldn't find anyone. And my wife, again, she's quite worldly wise. She's like, the problem is you bring in somebody from straight out of school or straight out of college. She went, I get it from a payment perspective, but you're going to have to tell them what to do. She went, the slight issue is that you don't know what the fuck you need them to do.
Yeah.
You've got to pay someone who's an existing PA who can tell you what to do.
Yeah, they can bring that
But
experience.
they're like 40, 50 grand. I was like, oh, shit. So the first person I employed, I was like, oh, my God, it felt horrific. But all that stuff of, like, you know, employ your first person before you actually need them. I did all that stuff that is Google quotes and analogies. It's like, oh, this is what it means. But that has enabled me to sit here and do this now, because my company is being managed by somebody else. It's not comfortable, but it feels right. And again, this is the crossover point, that you should live in an area of discomfort if you're trying to achieve, like what you've done, you know, financially and with your business and with your body. Of course, a lot of it's uncomfortable. You know, that's why so many people use the gym as an analogy, because it's very, very obvious. Like, it's uncomfortable to be doing this workout, but it will pay off in the end. It's the same in business. It's the same in life. It's the same in love. It's the same in relationships. But it should, in your gut, in your intuition, you should know it's the right thing. Even if it's uncomfortable, you should know it's the right thing. And if your intuition is saying to you it's not the right thing, listen to that little inner voice.
Completely agree. And I think that's the best advice to end this on, when we're saying about leaving stuff, because I know you don't want to call it quitting, but it's not about whether it's hard. It's about whether your gut is telling you this is right or wrong. That's the difference.
Yeah.
If you know it's the right thing, you stick with it and you push through. If you know it's wrong, that's when we take James Burtt's advice. We just leave. Yeah. We go, no more time. And well, Gary Rhodes' advice, I guess, as well, about every day you're putting yourself back. James.
It's not quitting as well, just to wrap it up. It's not quitting, it's stopping. Because quitting has that negative connotation that you're leaving something behind. In certain circumstances, that business partnership, I didn't quit it, I just stopped it. I didn't leave anything behind. I just stopped it for the betterment of my life. So don't, if that's what your gut's telling you, stop, don't quit.
Just thank you, James. An incredible story. Not one that I expected us to tell today.
No.
Not one that we'd planned.
No.
But I think nonetheless, very honest, very, at times, you know, vulnerable. And I hope that, as I have today, the listeners are going to get an awful lot out of just hearing a real life experience to somebody who's been through a lot, that is now, you know, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, by all accounts, finding more balance and more peace internally than you've ever had before. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're
we've got the pleasure of a shorter but a more kind of step-by-step guide to help people with building brands. This is something that you are, I would call an expert at, you know, and you've got a lot of experience with. So if you do want to hear a little bit more from James, click on the membership area for the additional podcast episode. But just before we finish this one, James, where can people find you? How can they learn more? What do you do? What have you got that people can get involved with?
So just Google me, I guess the easiest way. James Burtt, 2 T's, B-U-R-T-T, and I'll pop up on Insta and Facebook and all that good stuff. Come and find me there. Got a podcast agency, do brand consultancy. But yeah, just if you've taken some value, I'd love it if people tagged me on Insta stories just to know what their number one takeaway was from this episode. And go subscribe to this because I love the work that you've done. I love the journey that you're on. I love the realness that you share. So if you're listening to this episode of the podcast, I know there'll be a lot of fans. There'll also probably be some haters going, oh, what dirt can he dig up? Oh, this will be an interesting one with that guy that he used to know. Hopefully that's given you some behind the scenes insights to have a different perspective when you're thinking. But yeah, go and support Rich in Success and Google me if you want to. And if not, sod ya.
Yeah. There we go. That's a better way. Thank you so much. Just before we do finish, and I also want to say as well, if you're on Clubhouse, check out the Winners Club. You've created an incredible community. Every morning, is it 6:30 a.m.?
6:30 a.m. UK time till 9 o'clock. It's basically like breakfast radio, yeah.
Completely free. Check it out. And there's great messages every single day, conversations about inspiration. And I think it's fantastic what you've done. I really, really do. To have a breakfast show, which is literally like a radio show that's all around personal development, mindset, business development, better relationships, like how we can live a happier, more fulfilling life. But also you've got humor in there and you are bloody hilarious at times. Not when you're doing the shit dad jokes that you throw in. I just think it's genius and I wish you all the success. And you are having amazing success and an amazing impact. Before we finish, you know the score, or you might have forgotten. Final question. And it's interesting because we've touched upon success is a perception a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout this episode. At this stage in your life, what is your definition of success?
Oh, I was just trying to think there. I was like, oh God, he's going to ask me the success question. What did I say last time? I think.
Do you want me to tell you? Because I
go on, yeah.
And I don't fully agree with it as well.
What did I say?
It's not written down. I just remember it.
Okay.
You can't get a sneak. I don't fully agree with it, and I'll explain why. You said if every day I can be 1% better than yesterday, that's success.
Yeah, I think that's quite good. Why do you disagree?
So I get where it comes from, and I know I've heard a few people say it, but my confusion comes from, it's not, I think I used the wrong word. I don't disagree. I'm just conflicted about it because I think if I had an incredible day yesterday and today I wasn't as good, does that mean I'm not a success?
Oh yeah, shit. I didn't think about that. I probably just winged it last time. I probably just saw it as a Google quote before you and Dan turned up. I was like, that would make me sound well clever.
A lot of people say it. And I think actually success in that respect, if we're talking about being better, it's about having the intention to do the best you can.
Yeah.
It's
okay, ask me again. Ask me again.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, and action. James Burtt, what is your definition of success?
To be 1% better than I was yesterday. Or not if you don't fucking want to be.
Hey!
Up to you, really, isn't it?
do you have one now? What's your metric? How do you define it right now in your life?
I think it's contentment, because I think contentment and happiness are two different things. Like, I'm content. My favourite time of the day is book time with my son. I love book time. I don't just like it, I love book time. I get annoyed if I miss book time because now he's reading me books. Last night he's reading me like a cow that says wow, and he's reading. I'm like, oh, you see like his little brain connected. I'm like, oh, this is magic.
Yeah.
And I'm content in that moment. But equally, when he goes to bed at 7 o'clock, I'm content sitting and working at my desk till 10. Whereas before I would have said I've chased happiness, I think now I chase contentment. And I think contentment is a more tangible asset.
Because you can be doing something that's hard. Yes. It can be difficult, but you can be content at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. So I would say my definition of success is being 1% more content than I was yesterday. Or not, if you don't want to be.
James Burtt, thank you. Now, if you want to learn from James's expertise, James very kindly has recorded an additional members-only exclusive interview in which he discloses his main tips on how you can build your brand. Now, this is something that I've come to learn is one of the most crucial ways in which we can recession-proof our income and also drive sales to a business is when we understand branding, when we also understand the power of personal branding, we can put ourselves in a position to truly create, multiple streams of income that are recurring and residual year on year. If you want to learn the main steps on how you can do that, all you've got to do is pick up your members only subscription. Remember, for a trial month period, you can join the membership for just £19. After that month, it is a £39 monthly reoccurring subscription that you can cancel at any time. And that gives you access to over 40 training videos taking you through a program that I have created to help you learn more about living a life of high performance, to help you understand your own psychology and mindset, and to be able to equip you with the tools, the understanding, and indeed the additional support to go out there and live the best life you can possibly live. In addition to that, we've got numerous different interviews with a variety of different experts in a variety of different fields. We've also got live Zoom coaching calls that you can join us on every month. And we've also got a private Facebook community to give you that extra support, that extra inspiration, and indeed the extra networking to join like-minded individuals who are also on a journey of being their very best selves. All that for just £19. Click the link in the bio below or head over to richinsuccess.com and click on the membership area to sign up today. Here it is, a little preview of James's exclusive members only interview.
This is the only summary of a brand you will ever need. And if you understand this, you don't need to know anything else about branding. Great question. Right. So the biggest misconception is that your brand is your logo, your website, the colors that you use, your social media presence. It's none of those things. If your brand is simply your reputation, then the first and the biggest question is, what do you want that reputation to be? A brand is a delivery of a promise.
So remember, click the link in the bio below to hear that full interview with James, and I'll look forward to seeing you in there. And also, don't forget to join us again next week on the Rich in Success podcast, completely free, as the journey of self-discovery and personal growth continues. I'll see you then.